So you want to be a listing agent? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, it's Rosemary Lewis, your real estate bestie, and today we are going to talk about some things that I need you to think about as you are in your quest to become a listing agent. But before we get into it, you already know what I need you to do. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up right away. That way, what happens is YouTube will put this video in front of all of the rest of our real estate besties so they too can learn how to become a listing agent. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel so that every time we post a video here, you will know all about it. Okay? Let's get into our topic. So one thing that you are going to hear from the very beginning, if you haven't heard this a million times in real estate, is you list, you last. Now, in the beginning, when I would hear that, I didn't quite understand the thought process, but I quickly figured it out. And the whole idea is that listing agents, those people who actually go out and get the listings, get the houses on the MLS, are usually those who have the longevity in the business. Now, there are a lot of different reasons, but this is one of the ways that I want you to think about it. Is that buyers, especially in a market that we are serving like the one we are now, most buyers don't have to buy, okay? And this is what I mean, is that they can rent the apartment one more year. They can stay with mom. They can room with the roommate or something like that. There might not always be a pressing need on why they have to buy a house, right? A lot of times that is a want, a desire that we can figure out what their desire is and help them with the buying process. But many times when someone is going to sell, when they are needing to sell their home, that is a need to sell, okay? Now, I know that in the pandemic, we had a lot of people that just wanted to sell to figure out how much more money they can get. But generally speaking, they are going through some sort of a life change. Maybe they are getting married, or maybe they are getting divorced, or maybe their family is growing, or their family is getting smaller, or their job has changed. So there is an actual need, a motivation behind why they want to sell. So typically speaking, if you are able to get someone who is motivated and ready to sell, you will be able to see that through the closing table. The percentages are going to be a little bit higher than working with buyers. And then also logistically speaking, it's just, dare I say, easier to work with sellers because you're not running around all over the place. Now, I love buyers, okay? I absolutely love them. I love that feeling of handing a set of keys to someone for their first home or their dream home. But the reality is that there is a lot more longevity in this career when you transition to being primarily focused on listings. But here's the catch. Buyers sometimes are low-hanging fruit, meaning that a lot of times it's easier to engage people who want to buy than actually figuring out how to show your value to someone who needs to sell. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips just to help you as you're thinking about transitioning that I feel like some agents miss the mark on when it comes to listings. Because so many times I hear people saying, hey, do you want to know your home value? Do you want to know how much you can make? Do you want to know what your neighbors are sold for? And all of that is good, but are we really getting to the meat and potatoes and finding people who really have a desire? So these are a couple things that I want you to think about. The very first thing when you are working with sellers or potential sellers or just homeowners, is identifying what is their motivation. Understanding why, why are you even on my website trying to figure out what your neighbor sold for, right? Why are you even considering what other spaces would do, how it would serve you? And unfortunately, I think that a lot of times we glaze over this fact. We don't spend a lot of time or enough time as real estate agents really uncovering what that motivation is, and it is key to understand it. And I'm going to tell you why it's key to understand it. Because a lot of times people are on the fence, right? They're starting to think, you know what, it would be nice to have a different home. I probably should sell my home, because the reality is that the kids are out of the house and we just don't need all of this space. Now, if you've never had those questions, if you've never asked them the questions on why they actually want to sell, when they get shaky, when they think to themselves, it's maybe not a good time, maybe I should wait. If you don't know the motivation, you can't bring them back to that motivation, right? Yes, you could think about waiting, but I know that you really want to downsize, and these houses up the street that they are building, I think they will really fit your needs. Let's go take a look at them and see if it's going to make more sense than you heating this big old house or you cooling this big old house that the kids are gone for. So understanding seller motivation is going to be the game changer, but that is going to come with asking the right questions and understanding what people are saying. Now, I've told you before, one of the biggest skills that we need to have as real estate agents or being in this field is to listen. So make sure that you're not so quick to tell everybody what they should be doing, what the neighbors are doing, what everybody is selling for, where we are not spending time listening to actually what will get them off the fence and get them to the next level, ready to sell their house. So the very first thing that I want you to think about as you are transitioning to be more of a listing agent is truly understanding the seller's motivation. Now, here's the next thing that I want you to think about, is that the market is different, right? And it is different from neighborhood to neighborhood and sometimes block to block. So it is important that when you are speaking to homeowners, when you are speaking to potential sellers, that you have specific market knowledge of where they live, okay? And don't use these blanketed statements, right? You can't just say, hey, in Frisco, Texas, this is what's happening. In Prosper, Texas, this is what's happening. Like, you need to speak to their street, okay? Hey, on Mimosa Lane, remember that house at 123 Mimosa? This is what it sold for. This is what I noticed about that. Because I understand the community, I understand that buyers in this community really desire homes with a pool, or they desire two-story homes. So make sure that you can speak specifically to what's happening in their market, exactly where that home is, because it will help you far, far, far down the road, okay? The more that you're able to speak to the specific community where they are, then you are going to demonstrate your competence, and they are more likely to choose you, because not only do you know their motivation, but you are clear on what it looks like to get a home sold in their community. And I don't want you to get hung up, right? Don't get hung up if you have never sold a home and if you've never sold a home in their community before, because you have this wonderful gift called the MLS, okay? And you can go on the MLS and you can not only see the actual market activity in their neighborhood, but you also will be able to see the names and the phone numbers of the listing agents, of the agents who sold in that community. Pick up the phone, right? Call those agents. Hey, I have a potential client who's looking to buy or sell in the area, and I would love your feedback. Like, don't be afraid to do that. And then when you are sitting in front of a seller, you're going to be able to give them a firsthand account of what you know is happening in the neighborhood, because you have done that extra step. You've gone that extra mile. And then here's the last thing I want you to think about, okay? You know their motivation, you know what's happening in the market. Now, how are you going to help them get to their goal? This is where you really have to think through, how am I going to market the property? And guess what, y'all? It is not rocket science. I don't want you to be overwhelmed, especially if you've never sold a home before. Yes, there are so many things that you can do, and a lot of standard things that we'll talk about here soon on things that I recommend if you are listing a home. But in reality, all of us real estate agents, we really have access to the major heavy-hitting things that we need to market a home. If you are a member of your multiple listing service, then you are going to be able to syndicate your listings out. You're going to be able to get it out in front of the right people, talk to your broker to see what is the best way to market it. I don't want you to be overwhelmed, because trust me, you have everything available to you in order to market a home well. So what are you going to bring to the table? How are you going to articulate that to your client, just to help them know that you understand exactly where they are, and you know exactly where they want to be, and this is the plan to get there. Again, it's asking the right questions, making sure that you're not only clear on the property that they're wanting to sell, but what do they need? How can you support them beyond the sale? If that is helping them connect to another agent when they're relocating, if it's helping them go into a rental, if it's helping them, you know, maybe even keep the home for a little while because selling just doesn't make sense yet, making sure that you understand how you can bring them value will be the biggest game changer for you. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed, okay? I know if you've never listed a home before, if it can feel like sellers are the big bad wolf. And let me just tell you, they are regular people just like you, and they're regular people that may have a problem that you get to help them solve. So start thinking through these things. Think through the motivation, think through their market, what's happening in their market, and think how are you going to help them solve their problem. And now you are well on your way to becoming a listing agent. Now, if you made it to the end of this video and you are not subscribed to my channel, like, what are you doing with your life? Go ahead and subscribe. And guess what, y'all? We have a whole podcast for the Real Estate Besties. On all of the podcast platforms, you can check out Real Estate Bestie. We have 2 episodes every single week where we are just connecting and getting to know each other. So check that out anywhere you get your podcast, and I will see you next week. Bye.